Everybody, welcome to another week of the Five Guys on Live. We are really happy to join us. Vince is singing down the house and traveling to Tulum, Mexico. Brand new look, sun-kissed hair, enjoying the fullness of life. So sitting tonight in the fifth seat is the one and only diversity inclusion expert who just had a big 4-0, Zach Thomas. Zach, welcome back to the Five Guys on Live.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
We celebrate you. I just want to go before even going any further. I want to share with our Five Guys on Live audience this image. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
Right there. Now that right there is the epitome of old school Mississippi class and Black excellence. These are the members of Zach's family. His party was themed as Afropolitan. So all of his guests donned attire that reflected back to the motherland and our roots. And when I tell you his whole entire tribe came to the city of Atlanta from all around the United States of America to celebrate this man as he entered a brand new decade of life and a brand new season of prosperity. Not only did Zach just turn 40, but he just got an amazing new opportunity career-wise, a great promotion, well-deserved. And all of that to say to everyone out there is that your blessing is coming in due time, in due season. Work hard, do what you have to do, stay focused, and just simply trust God's plan for your life. When you do what God has ordained you to do, every blessing will come your way. If you're doing God's work, if you do God's work, you will be abundantly blessed. And it's just that simple. Hello, Aunt Renee. Hopefully you guys will come to Atlanta one day like his family came and celebrate with me. With that being said, we will jump right into a lengthy list of ongoing activities. Starting off, Darius, I think this belongs to you, my friend. Tell us what's happening right here. The Friendly Skies got a little less friendly last week.
Yes, they absolutely did. There was a man who is 34-year-old Stefan Duncan, who's an off-duty Delta employee who could be seen in a scuffle on a video with like several people on the flight. He was actually, they were trying to restrain him as he tried to make terrorist threats to take down the plane. And so it is said that he was trying to commit suicide, but in the attempt, he also was implicating all of the passengers on that plane. And again, he was an off-duty flight attendant for Delta. And so the question that I'm raising tonight is that we hear a lot about people's struggles with mental health, but where do we draw the line in terms of the support that we give people when clearly he's in distress and he's trying to take down this plane because he wants to take his own life? But what about the other people who are on the flight, and what should their attitude be towards this? And what would you do if you were one of the passengers on this plane? So guys, what do y'all think?
So before even chiming in, CJ, I'm going to go to you first. But before even chiming in, we want to recognize those arms. You know, Darius has his arms out tonight. He's been hitting the gym. He wants you guys to see that his pectoral muscles are coming in. And not only are the pectoral muscles coming in, but he has laid out a beautiful flower arrangement for our guests. That is for you, viewers at home. We celebrate the decor, giving us the best of the Oprah Winfrey table book, the best of Oprah Winfrey decoration. CJ.
Did you say hitting the gym?
CJ, don't do it. Don't even do it, CJ.
Okay, because
you're very bad, CJ.
I'm not gonna pull out the receipts on that.
Talk about Delta, okay?
Okay.
Talk about Delta. I like that.
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna definitely get there, but the gym is definitely a no.
But you said deltoids?
Right. The lack of deltoids. Right. Thank you. Lack of deltoids.
Because doors back there.
Get out there. Get out.
But it's all good. Zach, maybe it got bad lighting. I don't know. But nevertheless, how would I have felt on the Delta plane? I'd felt terrified. I felt like, what is going on? I mean, how do you even react in a situation like that when someone's trying to take down the plane because of their mental illness? Furthermore, I mean, if he works for a big company such as Delta, I would wonder why is he not taking advantage of any of the services that they're offering to help him with his mental state. I have quite a few friends that work for Delta, and I know they have a great extensive program and different resources to help people who are dealing with mental health, and it is free for the employees. And I could say maybe he hasn't went because he hasn't had the courage to go, but I feel like if his friends or anyone that knew about the situation, they can, push him to go and get the help that he needs.
I agree with CJ. I think this is one topic that we don't talk about too much in our community that we should. I think it's now becoming more prevalent, but mental health it's something that we definitely need to open up. Oftentimes, and Zach, being from Mississippi and being from the Black roots, like pray it away or go to church, or some things we don't talk about with other people outside the family. And so these are things that we need to just get away from that stigma. I think we need to start doing it. And one thing that I want to highlight, which I think is great, and I think I mentioned it last week on here, but like here in DC, they've now implemented, instead of calling the police when there's issues, a mental health specialist will come out sometimes instead of the police, and not letting that be the first result. Because I think oftentimes it goes back to mental health, and we just need to start talking more about it within our community.
And to piggyback off what you said, Zach, that's a good thing, because actually last summer we had talked about it here on the show that the state of New York was actually thinking about implementing that when there are certain situations that's going on when 911 is called, should the cops come first, or should a therapist or psychiatrist, someone that is within the mental health field, come out first to the scene of the crime or whatever's going on at that time to kind of diffuse the situation. I don't know if they went forward with that, but I know it was in talks last summer that they were looking to, implement that.
And that's one of the reasons why, like, for instance, last month, people don't aware that Mental Health Awareness Month was last month. So it was a whole month last month of mental health. And we actually did something on that. But in that conversation, I had a specialist on, and we were talking about this. And one of the things you have to also be mindful of is it is also, and it's also our responsibility as well to also be mindful to look at the signs too, and not ignore. Sometimes, so often, sometimes we'll, especially with children, we'll say things when kids are saying things like, they feel some kind of way, or I got problems, everything else. We'll quickly tell a child, well, you ain't grown, you ain't got no problems. But in essence, they really are having issues. And so we also have to be very careful about being dismissive when people are actually saying certain things, and they're actually crying out for help. But we're not taking those as signs. We're taking out somebody being extra or someone doing too much. And so even in those mindsets, even though I understand that people may not feel, they may feel like, okay, I may not go speak, or they may not go out those resources. We also too need to be making sure that we're not dismissing them, which could potentially push them over the edge because they may feel like nobody's there with them either.
I think that you guys have made some great points. Horatio says that it needs to be a countrywide thing. I think this is very much so true. Mental health in America is a real issue, especially at this time frame. And we can't take for granted how people have been pushed to their emotional and mental limit with COVID-19 and the challenges that we face. I read a wonderful article, gentlemen, and our followers out there who are watching along with us, that talks about this is very well the beginning of the end of capitalism, and that 40% of Americans are actually seeking to leave employment altogether and pursue other pursuits. Working from home has made a lot of people realize that going and being on the everyday grind in the American way of life is not productive, it's not healthy, and it's not what they want to pursue. And so if that really is the case, and we have all these jobs that aren't being filled, and it's not because people are living off of unemployment, it's because they just simply do not want to work for the low wages or for any wages that they feel is now no longer worth their mental health and mental state of mind. And I think that is what we're kind of seeing as companies really need to focus on how can they ensure that they are meeting the wellness needs of their employees. And that could be a lot of things. It's little things that these companies can do to make life more bearable and more pleasant for workers, whether it's flexible work schedule, whether it's flexibility working from home when necessary and needed, whether it's absolute paid time off for valid reasons, whether it's more breaks, whether it's a shorter work day with no change in pay. There's so many things that companies can do and businesses can do to really help alleviate the mental strain on the American worker. So hopefully more of that is going to happen.
And I just want to add to that, Zach. I posed a topic because I did see it from the standpoint of mental health and how we sometimes ignore those signs, as we mentioned. But also, in addition to the things that employers can do to help us, we also have to be cognizant on social media, because on social media we often see people who are crying out, for that attention, or they may be behaving erratically, or they may post things, and sometimes it can become easy to make those things out to be a joke or to make a mockery of people's mental anguish. And it should not take for someone to have that boil over moment that now they're trying to commit suicide, now they're trying to hold people hostage, or now they're crashing a plane. It should not take that for us to stop and say, damn, like something is wrong. Let us take this seriously. Let us see how we can genuinely offer support. And if we cannot do that, then just shut the hell up. And because if you can't be helpful, just be quiet. But making jokes about things like that do not serve to end the issues that people are having internally. They only serve to amplify those issues, and not in a way that is helpful. So I just implore everyone to be thoughtful about the way we engage with people who we clearly can identify are struggling with something mentally. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
But then also to that, like we can always acknowledge the signs, because people mask so much. Like you could be walking around here with a huge smile on your face, saying everything is okay, and you're thinking everything is okay, when in actuality you're not. Right. And so oftentimes you don't see those signs too.
I'm glad you said that, because especially with social media, people mask things so well on social media. People, post things and act like they're living this life and everything's just hunky-dory and everything is great. And then really in reality, their life is in shambles. They're depressed. They use social media as an outlet. So sometimes you can't tell, what I'm saying? So that's where I think it takes the close friends who know what's going on behind social media to look and pay attention to the signs. And if they're really your friends, then they should be identifying those issues and having those conversations with their friends and saying, hey, friend, if something's going on, you can talk to me. And if you don't feel comfortable talking with me, let's go and get that help that you need.
I agree. And I think that, each person needs to take responsibility for not only your mental health, but just ensuring that you can be the best friend that you can be.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean being like friends you have or have had, but it really means being Christ-like. When you emulate the teachings of Jesus Christ, you are going to give of yourself and give of your things in ways that you don't seek it back in return. So I see friendship not as it should be reciprocal. We're taught in life that friendship is meant to be reciprocal. But at this point in my life, I've come to recognize that friendship is not necessarily meant to be reciprocal. Nothing is meant to be reciprocal. You give out, and God is who will give back. It's not about I'm going to be a good friend to CJ because CJ will be a good friend to me, but it's about me being a good friend to CJ because God put me
right thing to do
with him and be a good friend to him, and God will provide for me through things in my life, and that will be the source of my strength. And that's how I see friendship in every relationship.
Zach, what did Olu say over there yesterday?
Okay,
I did not watch Impact yesterday.
He's been preaching all weekend.
Listen, I need to know what was said, because you didn't send about 5 or 6 messages today, and I didn't want to slap you.
He's been preaching all weekend.
I don't know if you're gonna want to slap me until we get to your topic. And we're not yet to your topic. It's now time to talk about we were talking about mental health, and we're talking about these issues. It stemmed over this weekend to another mass shooting in Austin, Texas. Gentlemen, anyone can take this one away. We had another mass shooting in Austin. This is, we have had mass shootings, it seems like every single week in this country throughout the course of from November until now. What are your thoughts? What can we do about this? If anything, what can be said?
Zachary, I'm actually glad that you kind of segue right into this, because this ties right into mental health, and why are people doing these heinous crimes and just doing these mass shootings? There's not much we really know on this situation, because the person who did the shooting is a minor, so a lot of the information has not been released. I do know that one person did pass away recently from the shooting. We got to get these gun laws under control. Something needs to be put in place It's some kind of rally, something. I really don't know. It's sad. It's too much for me to even talk about, honestly, because I'm just sick of even seeing it every week. I don't know what can be done, honestly. I do think it starts with the gun laws for sure, though, and mental health and people talking to people and getting mental health more out there. I definitely want to hear everyone else's, thoughts and views on this.
So, yeah, DeAndre. No, I would just say I agree with you, CJ. And Horatio brings up some really great valid points about restricting the right to bear arms. And unfortunately, America right now is going in the opposite direction. A number of states, Texas comes to mind with their way more inclusive gun laws and the, total absolute removal of most restrictions, including a lot of restrictions around people that have identified challenges with being able to contain and control their impulses, now being able to purchase guns and brandish guns without appropriate licensure or background checks. Those things are very, very concerning. And it's really, to me, a little bit ironic that this most recent mass shooting happened in Austin right after this most recent law was passed in the state of Texas. There's some things in America that really should be politicized. We all have rights, and those rights shouldn't be politicized, like the right to vote or the right to bear arms, but also the responsibilities that we have to protect each other. That also should not be politicized. While we have the right to bear arms, we have a responsibility to protect people from those who may not do well with bearing those arms. And that has now been taken to such a point that we really aren't going to be able to reach a consensus about it for, unfortunately, probably decades to come.
And if I can be just very transparent in this statement, I get kind of sick and tired of sometimes how we utilize we pick and choose what's mental health and what isn't when it comes to race, because of the fact that, whenever we look at, young white people who are, doing these things, it's mental health. When Black kids, when we see a Black young person do something, it's their thugs. And so we immediately, so some people hide behind that mental health statement. When in essence, if it's mental health, it's mental health, but you shouldn't don't make it racial, just because they're white, they have mental health. Well, that Black young man, he probably has just as much mental health, if not worse, and so I think for me that, and again, we don't necessarily know that, as CJ was saying, we don't know the totality of this because it was a minor. It is a minor. So we're not familiar, but because it is a minor, I hate to say this, but if I can just be real, we hear it's a minor, but if it was a Black minor, we would have known it was a Black minor by now. So I'm just simply saying that if it's not a Black, if it is so happens to be a white minor, it's protection. But if it was a Black person and a Black minor at this time, we probably would have heard something. So I don't want to always want to make things black and white. But once again, here we are again in protection mode, and it's not. And so we just have to, and we have to quit. Again, using the mental health and mental illness issue to make it black and white when it just mental health is mental health. And so it's a bad situation all around. Like, as CJ said, we have to do a better job with finding ways to, again, with these gun laws, as well as, and just do something. We just have to.
Absolutely. And even thinking about like the Pulse nightclub shooting, like we just, acknowledged the anniversary of that on June 12th. It's sad that even what are we now, 5 years from that event, and we're still having mass shootings. It really speaks to the politicians and their inability to address this in a way that completely eradicates the use of weapons at this rate. And even thinking about last night, right around the corner at Lenox Mall, a security guard was shot by two 15-year-olds. Thinking about like 15-year-olds and minors, like what the hell are they doing with guns in the first place? Like it really shines a light on the fact that this issue is so pervasive. It's even starting to trickle into the schools, and it's not even from a place that adults are the only ones orchestrating these shootings. Now we have to worry about children doing the same thing as well. I think there's a responsibility that also lies with parents to make sure that their children don't have access to these things, especially if you have guns in the house. Like I know growing up, We never knew if there were guns in the house. I knew my dad was in the military, so I imagined there were guns in the house. I never saw a gun in the house. So you have to make sure that you're taking the proper precautions to make sure that if you are exercising your right to bear arms, that you're doing so safely and that you're making sure that children don't have access to weapons, because they're not able to even conceptualize when I should or should not be using a weapon. And when you add mental health to the issue, like that just even, it amplifies it even more. So I'm just like Mama Kirk said, we got to pray, but we also have to keep our foot on the necks of these politicians who have the ability to affect change in real and tangible ways.
Now, my mama gonna tell you to pray all day because you can't get blood from a turnip. You just got to pray about it.
That's what you got to do.
That's my mom's
Yes,
motto.
because she knows that prayer changes things.
Prayer does change things, but let me say, not only does prayer change things, there's two other things that change things: laws and education. And so, Mom, when you talk about what do, it is proven that countries that have restrictive gun laws have extreme decreases in violence, and mass shootings are almost unheard of. So we can simply look to England and the laws they have in place and the low rate of violent crimes using guns that exist to see what we could be doing in America if our politicians were not being bought by the gun rights groups. It is ridiculous that it is easier in America to get a gun than it is to make a choice about a health procedure for your own body. And that is what we are living with. It's easier to get a gun than it is to file for unemployment when you've lost your job. It is easier to get a gun than it is to get approved for financial assistance and food stamps. That is not the way that it should be. Right. And yes, there are some criminals and people who want to do harm that are actually going to be out here who will get these guns. But if we had more laws in place that with mandatory education around these weapons, I promise you, we will see a decrease in these types of crimes. You talked about the fact that your father was in the military. You are certain you had to have guns in the household.
Absolutely.
Your father was educated on how to use that gun. Your father knew firsthand the dangers of that weapon. And as a result, that came into how he probably approached and handled that weapon. You have people, the people that are out here fighting these gun rights are the exact same people that stormed the United States Capitol in an insurrection, going down and playing doo-doo with Donald Trump, okay? These people thought they were going to be able to go down to the darn United States Capitol Rotunda and arrest Nancy Pelosi, hang Mike Pence, rape Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and put Donald Trump back in the presidency. They are delusional. They have mental health issues. They should not have had guns in the first place.
Right.
But they did. And therein lies the problem.
And I mean, Zach, even if you think about it, even to get a driver's license, a license to drive a car, which is not a weapon, which is not intended to be used as a weapon, you can't just go in and get a driver's license. You got to get a learner's permit. You got to drive a certain amount of hours. You got to go to, a class for what's the class called? I can't even think of what the name of.
Defensive driving.
Not defensive driving. That's when you've been drunk driving and when you've been having accidents. But
a driver's ed course.
Driver's ed course. You got to go to a driver's ed course. You got to drive with your parents for so long in certain hours that you can use a car. Like there are so many regulations around a car because we know that a car has the ability to cause harm and to cause damage to other people's property. But then we just put a gun in your hand because you signed a piece of paper. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. And the sad part about it, if we keep talking about these laws, is that after these shootings happen, then that's when the government want to be reactive and say, oh, we're going to make this a national memorial. You can't put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. And so you got to go in and fix the problems, which are the laws. And until we do that, we're going to keep having these issues. It's just sad.
We are. So this is where we now go. This is where we now kind of go into our next topic. So not only did we have this violent attack in Austin, we also had an attack against an actual police officer in the city of College Park. DeAndre, tell us about what happened right here.
So last week, there was a College Park officer by the name of Ivory Morris, who was doing his evening patrol. And he received a call. He got a call on a stolen SUV. It was a Nissan Rogue. About 1:30 in the morning. And so I'm giving specific details. I want to preference that. So 1:30 in the morning, stolen SUV. He ended up going he ended up running the place he was driving. He ended up finding out that he went to one of the hotels nearby in the parking lot, and he spotted the SUV. He saw that a 15-year-old was leaning up against the car. Behind the wheel was a 17-year-old. The 15-year-old, as the officer was approaching the car, the 15-year-old advised, the guy to drive off of the car. 15-year-old stayed. Ultimately, the car came back. The officer kind of began to get into a small tussle with the 15-year-old, and the 15-year-old eventually got to a place where he then told the 17-year-old to drive off. What happened was, to spare the young man, the officer, instead of pulling out his weapon and shooting the young man or disengaging and stopping the car, case may be, he actually got hit by the SUV, by the young man, and unfortunately was rushed to Grady and broke his leg. When he was interviewed, and when his supervisor asked, he said he did not want to hurt the kid. He did not want nobody's mom to have to bury their son. And so he decided not to use his weapon, decided not to engage his weapon. And so he took the brunt and got hit by the SUV. And so there's a couple of things I wanted to bring out in this, because again, you have at 1:30 in the morning, a 15-year-old, now 17-year-old, okay, but 15-year-old outside on a weekend. I think it's actually a weekday, 15-year-old out and about, stolen SUV. This gentleman, black man, black kids, he decided not to use his weapon and instead get hit by the car. The question I have is, and I wanted to pose this question because of the fact that here you have an officer who was actually within his right to engage his weapon because it posed a threat, but he did not do it. Instead of having a mom lose her son, he put his life at risk. What do you think about his actions? And do you think that we are operating in a double standard when we don't address issues like that? Because this didn't make major news. This wasn't something that was majorly addressed, and this wasn't put out there. This wasn't something, and this was a cop trying his best. And so, do we have a double standard? And then, what are your thoughts about his actions?
I think it's tricky. And this is why, I'm an educator to my core. Everything that I do revolves around making sure that our Black and brown children and any other children I'm serving as well, but specifically, I have a heart for children who are from impoverished communities, like the one I'm from. I give my all. I pour my all into that because that's what is important to me. That's why I chose to be an educator. Now, I wouldn't choose to be a police officer because I don't want to be in a position to make that type of decision. But at the end of the day, you are agreeing to serve and protect your constituents. And so if, I don't know what their thought process is in those moments. But this is the type of policing that really makes you question, okay, we say that we want police to do all they can to, protect our children. But then when they do it, it's like, would you have done that? And so I can't say that I would have, but that's also why I did not choose to enter into that profession. So I'll kick it off to y'all to, give your opinion.
I think his mindset was in the right place, but what do you do, in that situation? You have to think fast and think quick. And just like he said, he didn't want, someone to lose a son. But he's also, a son to somebody, you know what I'm saying? So I know they have the proper training and I know they're trained to diffuse situations. But I said earlier, I just think when the situation is going on, you just kind of have a natural reaction, to think fast, think quick, what you're going to do. And I think that's what he did. But I think his intentions were in the right place. But thank God he didn't pass away. Let me say that first and foremost. Let me say that. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I think it's a double-edged sword where on one hand, he could have done something different as a cop and been another hashtag or another trial or a Derek Chauvin, and because you have that in the back of your mind too as a police. And then on the other hand, you have, as what you mentioned, Darius, to protect and serve the community. But then also I'm thinking about, is that really what he was doing, community policing? Because you don't know if he might have knew that person. If we had more officers like that who knew their communities, like, Johnny Bo, you know you're supposed to be in the house. Let me call your mama, or I'm coming down there because I know the community that I'm serving. And so I think maybe that could have been some of the mindset. But I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm still weary.
And I guess the question becomes, even with that, and I'm with you on that, Zach, and I think the question do become, though, is when do we also have the same outcry to protect our Black officers who are doing these things, because of the fact that we don't have those? Because again, I'm a little outraged that we're not speaking enough on this man's behalf, because he did do something. Like, they let it hit the news and it was done, right? And these young men, like, this man risked his life to community police. And, you know, at the end of the day, when does his life matter too? And so again, we get caught on this double-edged sword because of the fact that there are, just like, for instance, there was an Ackworth police officer who was just shot yesterday. You know, there was an Ackworth officer shot yesterday. And so my thing is, at the end of the day, yes, you already know me and police, it is what it is with that. But at the end of the day, we do have our Black brothers and sisters who are protecting, and they're giving their lives. And this could have went a whole nother way and would have been the same outcry if his life would have been taken.
So, you know, I don't have a problem, I don't have a problem with an absolute line about this. I don't have a problem telling you flat out that I'm thankful that no life was lost, but the reality is we have to do a better job across we need to absolutely have a deeper dive into law enforcement, and we need to really have a lot of consideration given to the whole concept of law enforcement and have a shift in the way that this happens. But under no circumstances, someone who is in a position of serving and protecting have their life taken away from them as they serve the public. Period, point blank. These children were wrong. They were out of control. Thankfully, he did not take their lives, but he would have been justified in doing so. Thankfully, his life was not lost, and it would have been absolutely a complete loss across the board. We do know that crime in Atlanta, as well as major cities, is on the rise and is absolutely getting out of control, period. And it's not going to be something that people are going to accept until it happens to you or happens to someone that you love, but it's a reality. I'm absolutely sick and tired of seeing shootings at Lenox Mall. I'm absolutely sick and tired of seeing all of these videos of absolute lawlessness around the city that I love. And we have to have hard conversations about how to fix that. We have to find people who have a heart for law enforcement, who want to do it to serve and protect, and who don't want to do it because they want to police somebody. We have to find a way to incentivize the field. I know that Kasim Reed is now running again for mayor of Atlanta, and he is coming in with a hard-nosed stance where his number one platform issue is, I'm going to clean up the city. Well, Kasim Reed had the lowest crime rate in 40 years in the city of Atlanta, the lowest crime rate. He also paid police officers some of the lowest wages in the country. Our officers were underpaid and overworked under his leadership and administration. Yet they are happy to have him back at the helm compared to Mayor Bottoms, who gave them raises and increased their pension fund. And I think that speaks to the climate that we're living in and the level of support that our law enforcement officers need. And mind you, I am saying law enforcement because I do not believe in policing, but I absolutely believe in the rule of law.
So can I just throw this out? Because as you were talking and thinking about maybe the last two stories have been about young kids, and you all are educators, many of you are educators. And then I'm thinking about what happened here recently in DC with the 13 and 15-year-old killing the guy, stealing the Uber car, and being like locked up now, and he died. What can we do to for these kids? Like, what needs to be done? There's a lot of issues.
That's something that Vince and I, literally Vince did a photo shoot for me for the Lululemon thing I was doing, and he and I literally was talking about the issue. And we've been on this show, and I didn't say it then because I was being politically correct. But we were talking about, there was a whole debate about the water boys and giving these water boys jobs and bringing them classes. Look, some of these water boys are not, they don't want to be in school every day. They don't want to go to school and get an education. That's not what they want to do because they don't value it. Let me finish here. You're going to jump on it because they haven't been taught to value it. So our approach has to be different. We have to meet people where they are, and we have to give them the resources and tools they need for where they want to go. We have to understand that a public education and I'm an educator, so I value education. That's not everybody's calling or everybody's value, but everyone has inside of them something that is in their heart that God called them to do. We have to help young people hear that call. Maybe the water boys are called to entrepreneurship, and we need to have real ways to engage them as entrepreneurs, and not where you sit in a class, but where you can literally work and make the same amount of fast money you make selling water. The same thing goes for this whole entire stream of violence that's happening. We have to find a way to engage our kids and stop thinking about it from the lens of education.
Right.
And you have to sit in a classroom, possibly bored out of your mind if you don't have good teachers and educators like Kale on the line, and find a way to involve and enhance your own life. That's where we have to go. My number one regret as a public school educator is not realizing that then. Because I could have had a much bigger impact on kids if I would have realized you don't need this education to be your best self. Exactly. What you need is to realize what God has called you to do, and that's the road you must travel. Not my road, not the road society tells you to go on, but the road that's in your heart. That is what I should have been teaching, and I regret that I didn't have that understanding then.
Absolutely. And I will say also to that point, Zach, speaking specifically to the water boys, because we did get into a debate about this a few weeks ago. I know that there has been at least one of my friends has been hired by the city of Atlanta to start to think about ways that they can impactfully mitigate some of the issues that cause the water boys to be where they are right now, and some of the issues that come along with them being where they are right now. And so it's good to know that the city is thinking about these things intentionally. But I'm absolutely with you, Zach. I was side-eyeing you at the beginning, but we have to make sure that we have supports in place for these children, because no one is out doing these things because they just want to. It's all as a part of the design of the system that, systemically oppresses these children. There should be after school programs. There should be summer programs. The pandemic has affected the ability to do a lot of these things. And that's why we also see a heightened amount of crime within populations of youth. But before the pandemic, it was hard, even for some of my colleagues and myself, we volunteered our time after school to lead some of these these after school programs. And then even for summer school programs, you're making $30 an hour. Like, if I had to choose between making $30 an hour to teach summer school for a few hours a day or to be beside my pool, I always decided to be beside my pool. So we have to make sure that we are investing in our children so that they don't have to find other ways to get the money out of you. They're going to get it voluntarily or they're going to get it involuntarily. Either we're going to pour into our communities or they're going to drain it from you. And they know how to figure out how to do that because they have people who are already grooming them, who are already teaching them. Listen, this system has not been designed to uplift you or to support you. If there's anything you want, you're going to have to take it. And in order for us to get rid of that mindset in our community, we have to make sure that our politicians and that our community is banding together to make sure that our children have what they need right inside of our community.
And I have to say real quick, DeAndre, I'm gonna just be honest and tell you what I saw this tonight. I went to American Deli on Moreland Avenue and I ordered a 10-piece garlic Parmesan wing, all flats. I'm trying to be low carb. And there were two young gentlemen there that were dressed nice. They were clean cut. They may have been 12, one of them 12, 114, and one of them pulled out a wad of cash. They were covering it up. And I had never in my life seen that many $100 bills in one place. And I was like, oh my God, I had never seen anything like that in my 36 years of living. And so, with that being said, I was like, this is a clear, I don't know. I don't know whose mama and daddy lets them carry around tens of thousands of dollars because
Nobody
that much money in their hands, or is this something else? The issue is getting out of hand, and when we talk about prayer, this is what we must pray about, DeAndre.
But it goes, and from a sociological perspective, it goes a little deeper even in that, because when you're talking about Darius and Zach, about the children, the other problem we run into is that we forget that we actually have to do a holistic approach. We can't just go after those young people, because we're actually trying to develop young people, and we're sending them back home to people who don't value it. So you have to also be able to you have to be able to help the entire family. So you got to be able to help that single mom that, you're sending them to a single mom who doesn't necessarily value education. And so she's thinking, we got to get money in this place. So if she doesn't value education, she's thinking at the end of the day, you got to make this money. So we have to be able to holistically help the entire family. And I think even for me, when I was in the school system, as Zach, you were saying, I wish I would have did a little bit more as it pertains holistic approach, making sure that, that's one of the reasons why, unfortunately, we ultimately changed one of the rooms into our school. We turned it to a parent reference center where parents could actually get the resources that they need to actually apply for benefits. They can apply for jobs of that nature, because we also have to make sure that we're educating these parents too. Because again, if you can take these boys and mentor these boys and everything else, but you send them back home to the very thing the next day. So if you're going to send them back home to that, you also have to provide some stability where you're sending them back to. And so it's great that we take these young men and take these young women and provide them a space, but we also have to give these families something to be able to stand on. And if that foundation is broken, then all we're doing is perpetuating another part of the system.
Absolutely, DeAndre. And I'm going to add this point. I know I've talked a lot on this topic, but also we cannot continue to demean and devalue the things that are going on in those homes, such as African-American vernacular English, for instance. If you have a child in your school, in your classroom, you continue to tell them that everything you've been taught at home is wrong, do you think they're going to value anything that you have to say? So we have to figure out how to value those parts of African-American culture, as well as to teach them the things that we know they need in order to be successful. So we have to do both things at once, because you cannot teach children to value the education system if we do not value their home life. So we have to make sure there's a balancing effect.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has entered tonight's show. Congresswoman Greene, we are so happy that you are here with us tonight. I'm also right here. This is a comment calling the water boy goons. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Congresswoman Greene, we are happy that you could join us tonight. We do wish that oh my God, Congresswoman Greene, please tell twice impeached, one-term President Donald Trump that Dr. Zachary Kirk said happy birthday, because today is his birthday. With that being said, I think that we have a lot of great things. Both Kale as well as Dr. Washington talk about the fact that children are not listening to, many of the educators out there. And I think that's really, really true. But on the other end of it, I think the problem is that every single function of society that's meant to help these children tries to function like education, when education in and of itself is not working effectively. So we need community centers. We need churches. We need a full court press to wrap around all of our children. And every single organization needs to function differently. You shouldn't have community centers trying to educate kids like schools and churches trying to educate kids like schools. They need to be using different approaches to meet these kids where they are. And the same thing goes for us in mentorship. When many kids get mentors, those mentors do them just like they were done. And many of the people are successful because they were successful at getting an education. We can't mentor that way. We can't be like teachers in schools in that world, because the kids if school isn't working for them, then a school-like approach also isn't going to work. What I want to know about whether or not it's working is Vice President Kamala Harris' trip to Central America. You people, wrong person, not you. It's you people got on the internet and you attacked Vice President Kamala Harris, and you repeated an entire year's worth of attacks against her, perpetuated by conservative media when she made her trip to Central America, specifically to Guatemala, and she told people to not come to America illegally, to go through legal channels, when she said, don't come, don't come. It was massive backlash from a number of people. The most notable being that moronic Marc Lamont Hill and that idiotic Amanda Seales. Now, I've never liked Marc Lamont Hill, and I'm going to tell you why, and I can break that down for you. And you can also ask me why, because he has a lot of respect from a lot of people, but I don't think people have researched him appropriately. And Amanda Seales, who I actually do like and actually am debating where I stand on her now. This is what I came to realize. Marc Lamont Hill attacked her. They talked about she should go to the border. Where was this level of vitriol for Mike Pence when he didn't do much of anything except lick former President Trump's feet? No one, I don't remember many criticisms against him and what he did. This was her first international trip. Also, where were the attacks against Jared Kushner for not bringing about peace in the Middle East as he promised? He didn't get attacked either. But when a black woman goes on an international trip as vice president, everyone wants to attack her and blast her. I am disappointed that men like Marc Lamont Hill use their pseudo news network of the Black News Channel to attack her. And let me tell you this, Zachary Kirk will never watch the Black News Channel again in my life. Now, I have watched it, and it's very boring. It's very boring. But I gave it a chance. Let me tell you why I gave it a chance, because I wanted to support it. But let me tell you what I found out when I started doing research. When they first hired Marc Lamont Hill, it raised a red flag, because let me tell you what Marc Lamont Hill said, James, when you were sitting here and you said, no likey Markey. Let me tell you why no likey Markey. Marc Lamont Hill said that he had never voted Democrat until 2020. That means he did not vote for President Obama, and he had two chances to do so. So you had the chance to vote for the first black president of the United States of America, but you didn't do it. As a matter of fact, you never voted Democrat in your life. That's what he said by his own omission. That right there caused me to raise red flags. I firmly stand by the belief that Marc Lamont Hill is a Republican plant in black news media to mislead and misguide black people, just like Charlamagne's the Gadfly and maybe even Amanda Seales, because I'm questioning her too. The Black News Channel is owned by J.C. Watts. He founded the channel. He's the #1 investor in the network. J.C. Watts, Republican senator from Oklahoma, who was a disgrace and a failure to the American people. And the fact that they will put Black News Channel on there and is represented by J.C. Watts, he black. He is black, but in no way does he represent the needs of Black America. It absolutely disgusts me to my core, and I can't stand anyone on that show, including Cynthia Bailey's husband. Don't like him no more either.
Not chill.
I was waiting for the cancel culture to come out soon.
Well, my thing is,
what you don't cancel is this. You do not cancel my vice president, Kamala Harris. Kamala Debbie Harris.
But I also want to be fair, because if we're going to attack all the black people and everything else, we also got to make sure we go back and also get that AOC. Because AOC immediately went and attacked her when she made comments about her statement about stay out. And she went back and addressed AOC and said, at the end of the day, we have to deal with the root causes first. And so, so at the end of the day, I'll attack the black people. But, there's some of these progressive individuals who keep saying we're going back and forth. She said we have to deal with the root issues. And what you have to understand is Kamala understands that you can't, play one side and then think, you're not going to be able to still do the work. You can't just automatically, make decisions. Stay away. We can't, because we can't fix it if you keep coming and doing it illegally. And now what's happening is you're sending these kids over. You can't make it over. And so you're leaving your kids. Then you wonder why we have kids still at the borders that aren't having their families, because the families can't get over. And then you have another issue. So then they're going to talk about, well, Biden's not doing enough for children, but yet you still keep bringing these people over. So when you have comments like that where AOC is attacking, like she's just trying to say, listen, let us fix our root of the cause problem first. And then we can start talking about, asylum, or we can start talking about bringing them in rationally. But no, I think if I'm going to attack black people, I'm also going to attack those crazy progressives who have their agendas as well.
I can't argue with you, Dr. Pickett, because I agree 100%. You are right, and I acknowledge that. I acknowledge it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez deserves a lot of heat. She needs to sit down and pass some laws and write some laws of her own that gets passed, because she has one of the worst records in Congress, because she can't get anything passed because she doesn't know how to politic. That is correct. And no, Marjorie Taylor Greene, no, ma'am. It's not a matter of Vice President Harris being above critique. I am ready to critique her when it's justified and valid. I have been waiting because it's going to make me seem like a better moderator when I can attack Biden and attack Harris, so y'all can say, well, Zach is fair. But be fair in your critique. Vice President Harris went to the Central Triangle where our immigrants are coming from. They are marching in caravans from Central America up through Mexico. There was no reason for her to go to the border, the Mexican border, and deal with Mexico, because it's not a Mexican problem. It's a Guatemalan problem. It's a Belizean problem. It's a Central American problem. And the only way to fix that is to get to the root causes as to why these people are having to flee and the issues that are oppressing these people. She is trying to bring about systemic change in Central America, as is President Biden, which is what makes America a great nation, is that we are invested in we have always been the leader of the Western Hemisphere until President Trump came with his America First agenda. She is doing the work of President Biden to restore faith in this nation, and people like Mark Lamont Hill, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and every other detractor of this Black woman and her work stand to tear that down before it even gets off the ground. And that is my issue. I will critique her when she does something that I feel is wrong. However, I have yet to see that day come. Maybe her choice in clothes for a photo shoot where she wore some shoes that she shouldn't have worn. Maybe. That's about it. Correct. She is following the Biden. And what angers me so much is that these Black people out here, like Mark Lamont Hill and Amanda Seals, they're getting secondhand information from conservative media, and they're repeating those talking points. They are doing the work of the enemy for us, because it would be different if I could say that Fox News had the best interests of the Black community at heart, but we know that's not true. So why are we repeating their talking points? And the same thing goes for Lester Holt. Let me tell you right here, if you watch NBC News, Lester Holt. Lester Holt also didn't vote for President Obama. He's been a Republican his whole entire life, and now he's an independent. Lester Holt should be ashamed of himself for spreading a false news narrative as well. And NBC for allowing him to do it.
I just want to point out, Williams is not my maiden name. He's saying that Mark Lamont Hill, Darius Williams, Mark Lamont Hill was his classmate at Morehouse. He has the ability to create conversation and stir calls for the unpopular opinion, to cause conversation and encourage others to think about everything critically. But we cannot act like Vice President Harris has not also made some statements that are controversial, to say the least.
You are telling me, as a man of Morehouse College, you can support and stand by someone who literally sat up here and said they did not vote for the first Black man to be president of the United States. Not only for the first Black man.
You can't keep saying that now.
Let me finish.
That's what you said.
Let me finish my response to that, Damon. Let me finish, because that's what Mark Lamont Hill said. You're defending him right now on this platform. Mark Lamont Hill not only said he did not vote for the first Black man to become president of these United States of America, but he didn't vote for any of the Black Democrats that have run for office. He didn't vote for John Lewis. He didn't vote for Shirley Franklin. He didn't vote for Keisha Lance Bottoms. He didn't vote for Kasim Reed. This man who lived in Atlanta, who went to Morehouse, said that he never voted Democrat.
Exactly, but
that to me is not defensible. You cannot sit
it's coming.
Let me finish, CJ, because Mark Lamont Hill sits up here and pretends to be for the Black people. He pretends to be for the cause. This man is parading around lying to us. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to be with the people when he's working against us. I don't care how you see it. The evidence is clear in the words that this man has said. I don't care how sleepy his eyes look. I don't care how much weed it looks like this man now smoked. He ain't with us.
But let's
all I'm saying to you that you're making it seem like just because he went to Morehouse and he's Black that he has to vote for a Black president.
No,
because he's Black.
I don't want the implication to be that he voted Republican. He voted for the Green Party, because there are a lot of people who do not have faith in the Democratic Party, and we know that there are a lot of Black people who do not have faith in the Democratic Party. The man was voting green for the past 20 years. He said that he was open about it, but he voted Democrat this year for the first time in 20 years. Now, his reasons behind that are his own. Now, I do have some people that have issues with depending on who they vote for. However, I don't think that voting green is the same as voting Republican. So I just want to make it clear that he was not voting Republican for this in many ways.
And one of the things that I want to be very careful about, that the statement was made, that Damon put, is the fact that at the end of the day, we also got to be very careful about every time we turn around when we want to have an argument, when we want to talk about, well, we have to, we can't act like she didn't make controversial statement as well. Listen, we talk about this at this moment, at this time, and we can't keep every time we turn around, we want to justify, we want to be able to use our arguments to justify, well, what they did. And well, they said this, but that has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. If we're not talking about that thing right now, quit trying to use those kind of arguments to argue that thing. She might have made some controversial comments, but let's be very clear. As the vice president of the United States right now, she is pushing the agenda of the president to whom she serves. She is pushing the agenda of the president to whom she serves. And if it just so happens that that anything should happen to that president, she becomes the president. So again, at the end of the day, she made these comments. And I'm not going to sit here and go off on her because AOC was wrong. Okay, when we start talking about gun violence and everything else again, maybe we'll bring up her record again. But that has nothing, not a damn thing to do with Guatemala. Her what she did in California ain't got shit to do with this right here. So let's not keep going back and forth. Well, she said this, and listen, we're talking about the lives and stake of people. We ain't got time for that. At the end of the day, this is the situation at hand. This is what we're talking about. This is what, by the way, that's debate 101. Stop using irrelevant information to debate and argue your topic. That's the issue that we're having. And so I have no jab at you, Mr. Sir. But listen, that's not what we're talking about right now. And at the end of the day, we have to hold people accountable like Mark Lamont Hill and others who aren't speaking truth to power, who may not, at the end of the day, have the best interests at heart. I firmly believe I cannot say that I actually, except for the whole voting thing, I'm not going to say that I'm against Zach's comments tonight with that. Now, again, I don't necessarily agree with the whole voting, and we hold that, but I'm a firm believer. Listen, it is what it is. And so, listen, Zach, again, for some reason, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on in your life tonight that I'm still not wanting to slap you.
But to that point, DeAndre, and I know we're right at the 10:01 mark, and I know we're going to be ready to get off of here.
We are going to be ready to get off in a moment, and we're going to move to the next topic, the last topic. But before we do that, I want to say, you guys can all sit up here. Let me tell you something. For everyone who wants to defend Mark Lamont here, y'all watch it. I want you to go to your little what's that Comcast box and say Black News Channel, and I want you to sit down. I want you to be penalized to watch the Black News Channel for 24 hours, and I bet you will change your mind about this man and him being on TV and that whole network even existed, because you are gonna fall asleep in 30 minutes. And also, I would like to say that in the Kirk family group chat, there's a whole thread about y'all hear Zach say 36. And it's just mess after mess after mess. Mama, I don't know how you don't know how old I am. You ought to.
We need Mama Kirk to come on right now. Somebody drop her the link.
I told you we're gonna ask you because all this lying.
Because we need you to dispel this myth right now. He say he younger than Zach Thomas. He say he ain't made 40 yet.
No, he's not.
Because based on the age he talking, he's saying he's younger than me, and we know.
And with that being said, it's time to move into our final topic. CJ, I know that you are excited for this one. I don't know if anybody else is excited about it. I have to say, Crazy Boy, who may be a crazy conspiracy theorist, Rashad.
Wait, he might be crazy.
He's actually
crazy, but he also
over 40, actually, but that's neither here nor there.
You don't know my age. You can Google and you see what you find out.
Okay.
So you're going to hell because you can tell a lie, but when you tell a lie that big, it's penalty for that.
Well, if he's 60, he's Benjamin Button because he's aging backwards.
Okay, you look good, Zach.
It's
I'm
the die.
43.
It's the die. It's the
I
die.
just had a birthday. Congratulations.
I'm
with
proud
that
of my
being
grades.
said,
It's your die.
That's a whole way to
we
accept
are
moment.
spending too much time talking about a man who hosted the Basketball Wives reunion. Martin Taylor Green, you finally said something that makes sense. Now, you are excited, CJ.
I wouldn't say excited. I just, I'm from
I can't believe it. I can't believe that you would post this. So, with that being said, I know you're excited about this. I want to know if others are going to watch it. Tell us about it, CJ. The next versus battle happening on Wednesday.
Well, I wouldn't say excited. I think that's a stretch, but I mean, I am here for it. We have Eve versus Trina. I personally would have rather seen her against somebody else because I already feel like Eve is going to win this. Trina got hits, but Eve has a bigger catalog. So I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out and who's really going to win. But I'm here for Eve all day.
I don't know these girls. This is a little before my time.
You definitely know who Trina is. I got an ass so big like the sun. Come on,
You know
exactly who she is.
Oh, he knows who she is. Somebody did a whole set on yesterday with Trina.
No, wait a minute, Zach. Don't do it, Zach.
Somebody did a whole set of Trina songs.
What happens in traffic stays.
You know who the baddest bitch is, so don't even act like you don't know.
Who's bad?
Who's bad?
But y'all sleeping on.
And you know who Eve is.
Let's go.
Eve is. Shake it, Tambourine. Come on, you don't know Tambourine?
Hold on. Shake it, Tambourine. I might know a few of these songs.
Oh, you know a lot of them. You know a lot of Eve songs.
But everybody is saying that Eve is going to win the battle.
She has a bigger catalog. She not only has Rough Riders, but she has her solo albums and she has Grammys. Trina doesn't. I mean, the catalog just sits with Eve.
I mean, I don't necessarily use the Grammys to decide.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Eve has a bigger track record. Eve has more success, and Eve has more hits than Trina.
This is what I will say. I'm going with whoever Amir Rashid W is going for. Put that back up there, Zach. So whatever my best friend.
Cedric, get out of here.
That's the team I'm on. Put him back up. You see Amir Rashid W.
Trina is definitely going to win. Definitely not.
Trina is.
Thank you. Eve. Right. Philly all day. 215-267. Philly's going to win. Eve is in the building. Rough Riders.
I'm proud of Eve too because she has been able to brand herself. I think she was on The Talk, right?
What has she done?
She was on The Talk. She had her own sitcom show called Eve. She has done several movies, including Barbershop. I mean, who drunk my apple juice? She made some iconic.
Legendary.
Right. So, Eve is, and she's married now, very wealthy to a white man. She's been married for some years.
Hold on, CJ. What about Kaya?
Yeah,
I'm done. Kaya has one song, My Neck, My Back. That's not a catalog, okay?
No,
although that song will go down in history because you'll always hear it at a club. However, Kaya don't got no hits. Kaya needs to worry about how she needs to get back on the Queen's Court.
It won't happen.
Right.
I mean, Trina has done well too. Trina's on Love and Hip Hop.
Oh, child. And mind you, Love and Hip Hop Miami was the last franchise to be added, so that's not saying much.
Don't sleep on Trina.
I'm not sleeping on Trina, Zach, but what I'm saying, I actually like Trina. What I'm saying is when you look at the catalog and the body of work, Eve definitely has more hits. Eve has a bigger catalog. It's two different rap styles. It's the North versus South. And we all know the rappers are from the North. I'm not saying that because I'm from the North, but the North bodies the South. South is more ratchet. North is more real. And Eve is going to win.
Child, please.
Now, CJ, you need to wake up.
We're not going to do this North versus South thing.
Cedric, you are such a hater. You are effing trash.
You ain't never been.
I don't give a F.
Trina play that single again. Back on the prop.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not going to watch the versus battle like I haven't watched Barbershop and this apple juice. Because let me tell you why I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it.
You are not for the culture, that's why.
I'm the new Mark Lamont Hill.
You might be quiet as it's kept.
You just praised Eve for marrying a white man. Now,
I heard that.
No, I didn't praise her. I didn't praise her. I said she married rich to a white man. That's what I said.
But here's the thing. This is why I'm not watching it. The versus battle is happening on a Wednesday night. I personally feel that all versus battles should only be held on the weekend so people can actually engage and enjoy it in fellowship. Why would they broadcast it on a Wednesday night?
But
why gotta be about what you
what else
want?
I want to know? I want to know why the evangelist is sitting here rocking back and forth.
Right. We broadcast on a Monday.
That part. Thank you. I think regardless whether it's on a Wednesday or a Thursday, people are going to tune in and people are going to watch it regardless.
So we are definitely we'll see. My theory is that this will not be a well-watched versus, and I think it should be, but I don't think it will. But we'll see.
I disagree with you.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see if it's good or if it's gonna be confusion and delusion. So this is a time in our show when we prepare to conclude, and we always conclude with 365 days of Black history.
I ain't got nothing. I'm gonna pass off to Dr. Pickett. I know he got something on the top.
Well, how about this? Since you don't got nothing, I will just say it is Pride Month. So
you missed last week. I did the first one. I said every week it was gonna be someone.
Okay, well look, I had a lot.
Okay.
No. I was saying you missed it. I set the stage and I said every week I want to do someone in honor of the intersectionality of Pride and Black history.
And I will also say this Friday is Juneteenth celebration.
Okay, so I will do, since we're doing that, I actually can do something about Pride Month, and so yes, Juneteenth, but also since we're highlighting Black individuals and Black businesses and Black people and authors, I actually will highlight and recognize G. Smalls, who is an author who is also G. Smalls and Juan. They are
they fried the hell out of some shrimp down there in California.
Yeah, so they do have an amazing restaurant, but he also wrote a book. I'm all about Austin and trying to support and supporting them. And so please make sure. So again, and Jane, listen, you should have did it then. You should have done it. You should have done it today. You're on mute, and that's why you should have done it. That's why we got you on mute for a reason. So I've done who I did, and God bless you. God keep you as my prayer, and my prayer is that you will not only just support this one, but you support every Black, gay, lesbian, queer, transgender author who's out there. So go and do research on so many of them who are doing so. With that being said, come back off of mute. Zach is back on you. God bless your life.
So, and I will give you a James Baldwin. If you have not read James Baldwin, there's a huge, I have all of his books. I've been a James Baldwin fan since I was in, I read my first James Baldwin book in 8th grade. That's when I read my first Toni Morrison book. That's when I read my first James Baldwin book. My first one was Go Tell It on the Mountain, and then I read The Amen Corner soon thereafter. My favorite book by James Baldwin is a book that you may never have heard of called Just Above My Head. It is a huge book. It's massive. I read it when I was in the 11th grade, but it is, in my opinion, his best book, hands down. So if you've never heard it, if you never read it, please do so. It will bless your life and really expand your understanding of this man. The work that James Baldwin did as a Black gay activist in this world is still being felt. And it was recently that he had a documentary that was released. So again, I think that he is definitely worthy of your time. Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is no more the gay agenda than, your fake apology that you gave to Jewish people today about the Holocaust is the Jewish agenda. And so with that being said, I also do want to encourage you to buy that book by G. Smalls. I have a copy of it. I have yet to read it, but it's on my list of things that I am going to get to and that I am going to read. Absolutely, Candy, that's a great choice that you are making. James Baldwin, he really is the best. To me, he is the best male writer of the 20th century, in my opinion. And so with that being said, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys for joining us and can't wait for you to check us out next week, same time, same place, and same heated discussion. Mark Lamont Hill from Burning Hell. Have a great night.
Zach.